Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter film crew podcast. And you can visit us on our website at www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com. This week we watched Queer, directed by Luca Guadagnino, based on the book by William Burroughs. Lee, a solitary American in Mexico City, falls for a beautiful, elusive former soldier. Journeying together into the jungle, Lee sees for the first time the possibility of an intimate and infinite love. This movie stars Daniel Craig, Drew Starkey, Jason Schwartzman, Henry Zaga, Omar Apollo, and Leslie Manville. So happy Pride. Let's talk about this movie. Dale, what were your thoughts?
This I think if I remember correctly, this movie was up for the Golden Lion at Cannes in '04 when it came 2004 2024 when it
Venice.
came out, Venice Film Festival,
Yeah.
sorry.
Mm.
Yeah. It's a visually stunning movie. It reminds me very much of a off-kilter Wes Anderson, stylistically wise. Um, but the movie is like I don't know why they market it as a bit of a romance movie. It's kind of actually really dark in a way. Um, I can kind of I don't want to like go and like pat people's back for especially straight actors doing the whole gay for pay thing because it seems like a bit of an attempt to garner praise and adoration for this amazing, performance, playing a gay man. Wow. But I do think Daniel Craig's performance was really intense, and his performance adds to that dark and eerie feeling to it because Lee, for the most part, is very controlling and uh very is it I wouldn't say grooming, but kind of almost grooming, kind of force somebody into a situation they don't really don't want to be in. And you see through the visualization him struggle with like loneliness, isolation, and depression, you know, and the darkness sometimes that can create in people.
Yeah, so this movie, I was, I don't know why I wasn't like eager to see it. Maybe it is sort of that thing where it's like you do have straight actors playing gay roles. But then I said, Luca's a gay man, so I kind of just
Yeah.
I kind of just didn't think about it. But I do think that like that is like a separate issue that where it's like there are a lot of straight actors who play gay roles. It seems like it's starting to shift in a way where you have actual gay men playing gay roles. Like Omar Apollo is a gay man, and he's in this movie. He's not in this movie for long though, which is kind of disappointing. I kind of wished he was in it longer, but he's in it. So okay. And Andrew Scott obviously got to play a gay character in a gay movie that did very well. Um, but there has been a lot of conversation about like, okay, straight actor, like, why are we always seeing you guys in these roles? And I do think it's a good point because you have Jonathan Bailey, you have Matt Bomer, like you have a lot of other Coleman Domingo, like you have a lot of gay men who are great actors who could be in these roles, and yet they oftentimes are given straight roles to play. And then you'll get kind of a couple of movies where they'll be able to actually play gay. So it's it's a weird space where you have more gay actors in Hollywood, but like you don't always have them playing gay roles. It's very like
Yeah. And that's not to say because you're gay you have to play a gay role, but
that's exact yeah, true.
it seems like whenever a straight actor plays a gay role, it's like, oh my gosh, his performance is so groundbreaking and new. We have to give him an award somehow, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like that, what you're saying is exactly right. Like you don't have to play gay roles just because you're a gay person. But I do think when there is a gay story, I feel like the fact that those roles oftentimes are just given to straight actors, it's a weird thing there. And I think Josh O'Connor was also saying something to that effect where he was like he doesn't really know how he feels about it anymore. He is playing a gay role, another one. that's coming out later this year. But he was just saying in that like he doesn't really know how he feels about it. It feels a little, and it's like yeah, because it's like maybe we should rethink that. And I do think that Daniel Craig's performance in this was fantastic. He did such a great job, and because Daniel Craig isn't always given these kinds of roles, it is kind of refreshing to see him in something like this.
Hmm.
At the same time, like he wasn't given like a host of awards. He was nominated for stuff, but like he wasn't given it. And maybe people are rethinking like that whole mentality of like, oh, you did such an exceptional job playing this role. You transformed, even though like, you're that is, I mean, yeah, it's not your sexuality, but it's an interesting thing. I don't think I'm an authority to speak on it, to be honest, which is
Yeah.
why I kind of feel like I was gonna like wait and keep this part until like the end
But yeah,
because I'm not an authority to speak on this at all. This is just stuff I'm noticing. This is
yeah.
just something I'm noticing. Um, Other than that though, I will say that like I thought the movie was really good. I feel
Mhm.
like this movie was kind of like talked about for like a minute and then no one really spoke about it anymore. Maybe because this came out the same year as Challengers, so I think that was the movie that people were focusing on more. And is also Challengers is and I said this at the time, the most accessible movie he's ever made.
Yeah.
Like that was a movie where like anybody can go and watch it and have like a really good time. I personally think it's probably his best film, but like I think for this movie, this is a really like artsy, like surrealist movie. Like I think it's kind of hard to get into unless you're like locked into the stuff already. Like I don't know if most people or even most critics will like are trying to like watch it for because like it's long
Yeah.
and it's very surrealist. Like there's a lot of different stuff going on. The thing that helped me, because after I watched it, I was like, okay, this is based on a book.
Hmm.
And I realized that this movie is based on William Burroughs' life a lot. Like this is basically him. He's like this is a self-insert and he's talking about his time when he when he lived in Mexico City and then also went to South America. And so when you like realize that like a lot of beats are just taken directly from his life, it actually helped me enjoy the movie more because I'm like, okay, well, this is basically kind of like a biopic, just not exact. It's not like presented as a biopic because it's not like based on his biography. It's
Hmm.
based on a novel he wrote. But because the novel he wrote is basically his life, it is sort of like that. And that kind of helped ground it for me in terms of like, okay, well, a lot of this is like based in reality, which helped the surrealist elements not feel so jarring for me. I think it was just like, okay, this is just like an expression of like how he is feeling at any given
Moment.
moment.
Yeah.
So that kind of helped me enjoy it a lot because I was like, I like a little surrealist thing. I think that's cool. So I'm just like, I was gonna just take it. But it is a lot. Like this movie is a lot. It's
Yeah.
really dark and it's just a lot to deal with. So like I can see how like maybe audiences weren't feeling it in the same way, but I do think it's good. I think the cinematography was phenomenal. I think that the music choices, like the music that was sourced was amazing. I loved the music. And then the score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, top notch as always. They're always killing it. And Jonathan Anderson, who did the costumes for Challengers, who's an amazing designer, also did the costumes for this. So it just looked fantastic. Like,
Mm.
so I thought everything was good. I think everyone, even like besides Daniel Craig, I think all the actors were really amazing. I feel kind of bad for Drew Starkey just because the character he plays is much more at arm's length from Daniel Craig's character and thus like at an arm's length from the audience. Like you can't
Hmm.
really get a read on like what his motivations are, like what he wants. He engages in it and then kind of dips out. And so you're not really sure like what like if he wants to do this, if he doesn't want to do it. It's kind of and that doesn't really play well for me in terms of like the mystery of it, like him being a very ambiguous character. I'm not really into that.
Hmm.
And Luca does that a lot where he loves an ambiguous moment and it's just like dude you can just tell us like it's fine. but if he did tell us, it would ruin the story because like the reason Lee, the character, goes to South America is to get answers. You know, he wants to figure out like what this guy he's really into is thinking. So like if we knew that already, then there would be no reason for him to go. So like it makes sense in the context of the story why he is so mysterious. It just I just think that like it's kind of you don't get to like act a lot because you're being so subdued.
Mm,
And so against Daniel Craig, he kind of overpowers it, just like he does in the movie. You know, he's just very like in your face, and that's the performance you're going to think about and you're going to leave with, unfortunately. And but I do think that Drew Starkey did a really good job. It's just that like the character is kind of confining.
mm.
So I don't know.
I mean, I think Drew's performance works for this role.
Yeah.
Considering that this is also like we mentioned this movie is like really dark and off kilter, but it's also like focusing on Lee's obsession and his thirst for an unrequited love. You
Hmm.
know, Andrew's character is like, I'm just here to enjoy the moment and enjoy the vibes, and you're just super enamored with me. And like an average person, like who's not in the mental state that Lee's character is in would kind of pick up on like this person is not, responding the way most people respond to these situations. They're off guard and know to like back off. But that just makes Lee just push forward even more. Like even in the beginning of the movie when Lee first notices him, they walk by each other in the market, he just stares at him and dude looks and then walks forward. And then when they meet at the rest, they see him at the bar. And he looks at him, and like I guess the two other gay guys are behind him talking. Lee gets up out of his chair and bows to him, and then the guy looks away from him, like, "Yo, you dad's odd," and then there are other gay guys laughing at him. Like those kind of things where Lee does not socially understand to like drop it back a bit. And then as the relationship starts to progress, they have the fling, and then they meet again at the party at the one of the guys' house, and his girl is there. It's clear that Andrew's character at this point is just exploring his sexuality. He's not really committed because every situation he still goes back to his girlfriend or whatever, and he also brings his girlfriend to the party, which a lot of other women are there too. So you kind of get the idea based on his age, and he's just exploring sexually. He's not really fully committed to it. And then Lee shows up drunk, and it just goes off. And he's like, "What are you doing?" Like, that kind of thing. So I think his performance works perfectly for the situation that was needed.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he did a really good job. And he did, I have like the movies I've seen him in have been like, those Amazon rom-coms. And like he was in Outer Banks. So the fact that he got to do this role is really exciting because like he's a really young actor who like if you weren't like a teenage girl or like a part of Gen Z, you probably wouldn't know who he was. So it's really exciting to see him in a movie like working with Luca and having that kind of prestige. I think that's pretty cool. And I hope he gets like more opportunities to do that because I think he's a really good actor. Um, but yeah, down to like the themes and like what actually was going on with these two, I feel like, and I kind of understand Daniel's character so much because it is based on the writer of the book's life.
Hmm.
And apparently, like that guy, William, like was equally as obsessive on drugs, just like not present. But he also was a part of like the beat movement. Like I think he started it.
Hmm.
I'm not correct if I'm not mistaken. With like, Jack Kerouac's On the Road. Like he was like one of those dudes who was doing that, the countercultural kind of living back in the
Hmm.
day. And so that is cool, like that he was starting that. And he was a very prolific novelist and artist. So he inspired like the Beatles and, the Rolling Stones, David Bowie, like all of those artists to like also live that alternative kind of different life, which is cool.
Hmm.
I think the thing with Luca is that when he when it comes to like sexuality and how he depicts it on screen, he never labels anything. And I think that's very intentional. Like he doesn't want to be like, especially like when you watch Call Me by Your Name, where this is obviously like a relationship between two men, but it's the time period messes with it a little bit where it's like no one's gonna outwardly say, I am
Hmm.
gay. So Hammer's character like goes back to his fiance, and Timothy's character is also having a love affair with the girl in the neighborhood. So it's like you can read it as maybe they're just experimenting, maybe they are bisexual, maybe they are gay, but they just can't like say that because it's the 80s. Like it could be any one of those options, and I think that that is what Luca tries to do. He doesn't want to like say like what anyone's sexuality is when he depicts these things. So in this movie, they're talking a lot about queerness, and to me, it does read that like Daniel's character specifically is gay. The guy in real life had wives, but it just was, it was like the 40s and the 50s, so it was illegal to be gay. So it makes more sense that like he would just be marrying women just for protection, not because he actually was interested in them.
Hmm.
Um, Even though he did have a child with one of his wives and he killed someone. Okay, sorry. I have to talk about the real person for a second because this man is insane. He killed his wife in front of a whole bunch of people. Like they were at dinner and he just murdered her because he was playing a game that they play at the end of the movie. I think it's
Mm.
called like William Tell, where you put the glass on your head and, you know.
Yeah.
So he did that with the wife and he killed her and he only got 2 years for it. Like murder in broad daylight
The
and he
50s
only
were
got
crazy, okay? There's a lot of stuff going on. You got racism and you got all the other
insane.
stuff. It's insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
Anyways, but basically the guy was so infatuated with another dude that like he cut off one of his fingers, I think, or like tried to cut off his finger because he was like so obsessed with this
Obsessed.
guy who
Yeah.
was not giving him the attention I think that he wanted. So much crazier in real life than in this movie, but it is the same feeling where like Daniel Craig's obsessed with this guy. And the guy is like, to me, it kind of just feels like he's queer. Like he's not, I mean, there's no way you go that far if you're, if you're just like, you're just vibing. Like come on.
Yeah.
But to me, it's more just like, it's the 50s. So even in a liberated setting that Mexico City seems to be at that time, it seems like I don't know, because like it kind of just feels like he's probably from a conservative background, so like maybe he just doesn't want to think of himself in that way.
Hmm.
And they keep bringing up that idea of like, I'm not queer or something, I'm disembodied or something. They keep saying that phrase throughout the film, like when they're doing their ayahuasca stuff, like that keeps coming up. So it seems like they're not trying to put a label on it, it's more just because at least at that time it would have been seemingly more dangerous to do it, even though, like I said, they're in a more liberated setting, being in
Yeah.
Mexico City. I guess this still doesn't change the fact that, like, maybe because for this young guy, it's just like one stop along the way. Like, he's not trying to stay there. Like, he is going to go on with his life and do other stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, it's like, no, I'm not going to lean into it. But also, like, maybe there is something exciting about being with an older man who's like taking care of you and like you guys get to go on all these adventures and stuff and he's someone who's like really into you and this is something you probably have already been thinking about, already like mulling over, wanting to try. So like yeah, go for it. Like it kind of just seems like it's more of that where he's not really thinking about it too much. It's just like one thing leads to another, leads to the other, but he isn't as obsessed or wrapped up in it as Daniel
Mm.
Craig's character is. So it's interesting how they depict it. I like the kind of not let's not label it ambiguity. Also, like time setting. Like I think that that's a little bit more interesting because then you don't have to be like, oh, it's they are this thing. It kind of just it's more like feelings based of like how do I like maybe I want to do this, maybe I want to do that. It kind of just depends on my at least from his character. Drew's character is like, yeah, let's see what happens. And um but I think the issue I have with it, which is an issue that I have with a lot of these movies and mainly how Luca does these movies is the age gap stuff.
Yeah.
Just because it's like after watching like the four seasons and movies like that, where it's like you have two gay men who are around the same age and their relationship is still really compelling and interesting and they're both really cute. Like I just don't like you don't actually need to do this. This guy is this old and this guy is this young because To me, some of the scenes were a little uncomfortable because Daniel looks like his dad.
Yeah,
Like he literally looks like his father. And that's just weird. So it's hard. It was kind of hard to get into it because it's like y'all are so far apart in age that it kind of it kind of throws me off in terms of like being totally invested in this relationship. And I felt the same way watching Call Me by Your Name, even though the age gap isn't that um
it's still there. Not as significant, but it's
yeah,
still
far
there.
apart,
Yeah,
it's still like this kid is like a teenager and you're a grown man. So
yeah.
it's, and you look like a grown man. That's the thing. You don't look like a younger man. So it's just really uncomfortable. I really wish he would stop doing that. Like, just get actors who are closer in age. I don't understand.
Yeah, and that's why I said this movie, like I don't know, when I say grooming and people, well, you kind of do got to put a negative connotation on grooming, but see, but when people, straight people mostly talk about grooming, they're kind of like think, oh, a gay person forcing a younger person into whatever, which I guess would apply to this. But I mean, just the overall control that Daniel Craig wants to exert on this character, whether you're gay or straight, like there are straight people who just groom other straight people, in relationships do what they want. This just it's the power dynamics of age. Like I am the adult, essentially. Like when they're arguing when they're in Mexico, not Mexico, when they're in Central America, and he's going to Ecuador and he's going somewhere else, and they're arguing the hotel room. He's like, "Yo, I just don't want to have an argument for breakfast." And he just becomes so condescending, like, "Oh, you're sick. You're a junkie. I feel like that's how you treat me." And then he goes, "Make sure you have your bus ticket ready for the bus." He was like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Remember, you're going here and I'm going here." Just that level of the adult, I'm a kid, I'm going to condescend to you like triggers. And I found that really off kilter. No matter if it's a straight movie or a gay movie, I'm always gonna, view that in a negative light. But of course, like you said, William Burroughs was a weird dude. Like he lacked for a writer, he really lacked interpersonal relationships. And I guess his writing is a way for him to try to process and understand like what happened in the situation, what was I not getting, and in that writing he's like, oh, I was an asshole, that kind of thing. So I guess that's what at play there. But I like I loved the way this movie looked visually. Um like for a lot of the shots when Lee's talking, a lot of them are really center framed. And I don't know if a lot of people picked up on that. Highlighting once again, mostly when you center frame stuff, you kind of highlight isolation, like you're no longer connected or close to things like that. Like if you pay attention across a lot of his shots, if somebody's not there or if he's looking at somebody, he's dead center. I like remember like I mentioned when he meets uh Andrew's character at the restaurant. Like Lee is dead center in the framing, even like the whole time, and then Andrew's like to the side when they are looking at each other. Those kind of things. I love those little cinematic touches because the way you're the way you shoot these people tells you who they are. In a way. Like for the most part, Andrew's character is always to the on the frame to the left. Left, right. Yeah, left to the frame. Kind of never next to him in a way. They're always diametrically opposed as far as their positioning. And then I also love the way the use of miniatures in this movie was so beautiful. That's why I said it to me. It's like very much like an off-kilter, like Wes Anderson's already off-kilter, but a more dark take on a Wes Anderson movie. Like I loved the use of miniatures, the use of I think at some points probably use spit Doppler effect with the miniatures, like you can in certain scenes you can tell that they're using miniatures, especially when Daniel Craig not, yeah, Daniel Craig is walking around the city near the end based on the lighting and the way the buildings look like, oh, this is a miniature, and then they've just in post, mix the two together. But still, it was so lovely to see. It adds the use of miniatures and the use of the colors. Yes, Mexico City, a lot of cities in the 1950s back then were very bright, very, very colorful. But the way they use miniatures to shoot the cities and stuff like that turned the city itself as well into a character, which at that time period it was, because you had a lot of American expats, escaping there for whatever reason. Like Daniel Craig even says when he's talking to the doctor about his opioid addiction, he goes, "My current condition makes me a criminal." He could be talking about the opioid stuff, or he could be talking about his sexuality as well. Because 1950s America is the height of the Red Scare, as well. So it leaves a lot of stuff open.
Yep. And I will get back to that because I thought it was really good. But what you were saying earlier,
Hmm.
I think the thing is like when it comes to like grooming, it does have a specific like negative connotation when it comes or stereotype of that's of gay people. Like
Hmm.
that's one of the things that before it was like really understood. That's what people would accuse. And I think till this day, in some instances, they would accuse gay men specifically of being groomers, of like messing with children. Like
Hmm.
so it I think that's why people are more like not inclined to use those words when it's like talking about gay relationships or gay men. But and not but uh and also
Yeah.
um I think that the age gap stuff is inherently problematic no matter like
Yeah.
what age or what period of time we're discussing. Because it is implied that, Drew is an adult. He's not a child by any means. So it's not like it's nefarious in terms of like what is happening between these two adults. They're adults. It's just that like I think visually when you're looking at it, and also the fact that Drew is a younger person, kind of just starting out in life, it makes certain moments uncomfortable. And because
Yeah.
it's just like because there is a controlling element to it. Now, whether the character is like the character Drew plays is like not is being like manipulated into being this relationship. I don't think so. I don't think he's being like forced into this. I think that he is choosing to be into it. And then the dynamics because of the age gap relationship, those are problematic. That's where the issues are coming from. They're
Yeah.
coming more from the age gap than they are because he's being, you know, forced into a relationship he doesn't want. It seems consensual in all forms of it. Like he gets invited to Daniel's apartment, he chooses to go, he wants to have sex after he threw up and did not brush his teeth. Disgusting. Okay. I was like, all right, y'all. Well, that's just nasty. Y'all just be nasty. Um, but other than that, like, yeah, it seems like a consensual relationship. It's just, I think Daniel's infatuation plus his age that creates an uncomfortable dynamic, which I think is a point.
A pro of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it is kind of the point. So, and actually, I don't have issues with watching movies like that. I feel like you can watch problematic things if you just know, okay, well, that's problematic. Like, just, try not to do that in your real life. But like, hey, that is life. That happens all the time. So
Yeah.
like, I don't mind seeing it. I think the way that they did it was at least respectful. And I don't know if they had an intimacy coordinator on this. I hope they did,
Hope they did.
but actually, I don't know. I didn't listen to any of the interviews and stuff. I have to go back and do that. But um, I think for the most part, it seemed like it was fine. So that was the first thing you said. Going back to like how this movie looks, I will say the production design on point. Everything just looked not only like color coordinated but symmetrical. It just looked fantastic. The miniatures were beautifully done, and also like the symbolism that a lot of that stuff comes back, like the snake eating itself, or I don't know
Yes,
what
I love
that
that. The scorpion or the centipede.
caterpillar, yeah, the centipede, that being a huge theme in it. I was like, yes, this is beautiful. Like I love that stuff, and how it kind of came back and like what it means and how it can mean like so many different things. Like that's the kind of thing I'm into. I'm just like, yes, that's great.
Hmm.
And also the fact that it does kind of remind me of Wes Anderson movies, but in a sense where I think where Wes's movies are like you find the deepness through the humor. I
Hmm.
think this is more just like there is funny moments, but like it's not like a comedic experience at all. It's very
Embarrassing. Like, yeah.
you are embarrassing. It's just like heavy and dark and dramatized. Um, and it also just shows like where people like you fought in this war and you're coming back and like how do you rebuild your life? A lot of these people were on drugs, and that's the same thing that happened in The Brutalist, where he was coming out of that whole situation and was addicted to heroin. Like, it seems like because they didn't know like how bad these drugs were, they were just taking it and then becoming addicted to it and like didn't know how to stop. But also, like as you saw in the film, they were being prescribed these things by doctors. Like it's not like they just found the drugs and were like, okay, I guess I'm going to do this. It was more just like a doctor told them this is going to help you. And then they became addicted to it. And because they did not understand how bad these drugs were, they were just like taking it. And it was really ruining their lives. I think that that's one of the reasons why, like, the character Daniel plays is so weird because, like, he's on drugs. Like, he's not registering how other people feel about certain things. And
Mm,
when he doesn't get his way, he gets fussy and annoying and like upset because like he is not in his right state of mind. So it is like it's very sad, honestly. Like his character is very tragic to me because at the end of the movie, like Drew's gone. Like he, it's been 2 years. He thought that this was going to be like some amazing love. Like they went all the way to Ecuador just to like, to go on this ayahuasca journey so he can find out what this man is thinking. And then it's just over. Like,
yeah.
and so that makes me sad because it's like the character, and that's I guess related to the guy's real life. Like he died. He didn't die from a drug overdose. He died because I think he got surgery and it didn't go well or something like that. But he was addicted to heroin his entire life.
Mm,
So like I guess there wasn't going to be a happy ending regardless, but like it is quite depressing. I want Daniel Craig to be happy, but like yeah, that just ended
yeah.
not well.
Yeah. He kind of like I love that ending scene where it's kind of like when they do those s- non-speaking scenes, kind of surrealist scenes, is him like the whole point of him trying to ask ayahuasca is to like process and communicate what's actually going on in his head. And I love how those scenes illustrate that, particularly at the end where he says, they play William Tell and he kind of like shoots him, and that's kind of his way of trying to get him out of his mind in a way, like put death to the thought of it and remove him
Mm,
to there, and then he disappears. And you see him growing old, but for some reason, as an old man, he's still pining for
yeah.
this young man, like, as he's in it. I love the callback to their trip to Ecuador where he's having the withdrawal symptoms where he's shivering and he has the shakes, and he goes, "Can I go stay in the bed with you? I'm cold," and he's warm to get warmth, and he's there shivering, and then now you see him as an old man, still. Dealing with his drug addiction issues through his whole life. Now, old man shivering alone on the bed with nobody to comfort him, and
Mm,
he thinks of this young man, and he slowly starts stop shivering. How, and that's how love lingers. Like what was the quote from um was it the Avengers movie where Vision says to Lana, is like, what is grief but love not persevering,
oh,
that kind of
yeah, yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
It reminds me of that kind of line where, even though I'm old, he's still kind of obsessive over like this, like, I guess, month-long experience, with this other man.
Yeah. And it is interesting because the character is an older person, but it is like he's having his like first love at like 50 or something or 40.
Yeah.
So he's having that like call me by your name, like summer of love moment, but he's in middle age. So it is interesting saying that because you usually don't see it from that perspective of an older person. You usually see those like first love, kind of all consuming infatuation love stories through the eyes of younger people because when you're young it's like yeah you're going through all these emotions for the first time and you also have like no infrastructure on like how to deal with any of these emotions because they are happening for the first time. So like it was interesting to see an older person have that experience and you know I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I liked it. Yeah. All right, so moving on to the box office, has been kind of a weird kibosh as we're transitioning from I guess, the early phase of summer to the slower phase of summer, where a lot of movies that were potentially supposed to be released now not being released anymore and being pushed back or reshuffled, such as the movie slate of Hollywood. Of course, coming off the weekend in 10th place is Thunderbolts in its sixth week. Of course, it's slowly phasing out that top 10. So in a matter of weeks, it'll probably be picked up for digital streaming platforms or like Amazon Prime or whatnot later on. Of course, we also have Nine Sinners, which is also in that process in its ninth spot in its eighth week in theater. It's already on Amazon Prime. It's already on the paid to buy digitally on digital platforms. It's not streaming for free yet. So yeah, Thunderbolts is probably going to follow that path in like the next couple the week or so. Dan Dan, another hit anime, has a movie out as well. Comes in at eighth. Uh, 3 million domestic so far. We don't know about it internationally because of course most international numbers tend to come from Japan, where the property is based. I'm looking for more information on that coming soon. Seventh place, Bring Her Back. It was the A24 horror movie. It's the second week. Made about 4 million. Total domestic in the last 2 weeks is 14 million. So, it made about 10 million the first week. Now it's making four. Um, Hopefully just keeps that steady pace of where it's at, because it's not really the time for horror movies. I guess I don't know why you release a horror movie in summer. Like summer is usually your family summer blockbuster, kids kind of stuff. Like fall, winter is kind of where people more in the spooky mindset.
They
Of
released
course,
Midsummer during the summer.
I mean that's also topical though. It's so you know what I'm saying. So it kind of does work
The
in a
guys
way.
who, yeah, the guys who made that movie also made Talk to Me, and Talk to Me came out in June as well.
Yeah.
So I guess they were just like, hey, if it worked, then it'll work now.
Yeah. Yeah, not understanding that, this movie's called Midsummer. It's about, a summer trip from college kids, and then it goes on the twist. But at six right now, Phoenician Scheme, Wes Anderson's latest film, debuted about 6 million, 7 million globally. You know, it's uh, you know, it's doing lower than I guess Asteroid City, which opened in 2023. But of course, Wes Anderson movies, even if they debut low, he has a cult following. I'm one of those Wes Anderson fans. I'm gonna watch it anyway. He makes his movies for his demographics, for his fans. It's not for the wider audience, so it'll still make what it's gonna make. At five, we have Final Destination's Bloodlines in its fourth week. And four, we have Karate Kid Destination in the second week. Um, it's of course once again those trends of Hollywood trying to bite off IPs and nostalgia, still kind of underperforming, but still maintaining that top five-ish spot. Number three, Mission Possible: Dead Reckoning in its third week. Had a massive drop off, like 45% from week to week. Still has made almost 450 million globally. Is dominating the Chinese market, which they were always determining. They were just waiting for their international markets to pick up. And so right now, it's boasting the movie is the international draw. It's one of those films that's not, I guess, being stunted by Trump's talks of, tariffing movies and getting hit with tariffs internationally. Number two, to a surprise opening, I guess, would be John Wick's Ballerina, starring Ana de Armas, made 25 million domestically. Um, they're still calling it the lowest opening in the John Wick franchise since the original, but I guess at this point, John Wick for most parts kind of run its course, and I think they were trying to people were clamoring for Ana de Armas when she was in that last No Time to Die, James Bond. They thought her character was wonderful and a breath of fresh air, and then I guess she did that spy movie with Chris Hems, well, not Chris Hemsworth, they're all named Chris. Chris Evans, which didn't do good. Um, and then they did Ballerina as well. So I still think they're still saying there's an audience that wants her to play one of these roles, but the stylization and her character was in the James Bond movie was such a fresh air. I think they're kind of shooing her into action movie roles, not understanding the aesthetics that were played that made her character, even as brief as she was, a draw in No Time to Die. And of course, the number one in its third week is Lilo and Stitch. Of course, Disney remakes, Disney properties are always going to dominate the box office, no matter how bad or good they are. This also being a nostalgia bait, which also doesn't, capture the same love I know we have for the original, but it's for a younger generation who isn't aware of, how beautiful, that first one is. And it's also parents taking their kids to the movies now. School is out. They got to fill an hour, 2 hours or something. So, yeah.
Okay. So, moving on from the box office, our first news story is about Jared Leto. Um, Multiple women have accused him of sexual impropriety. Um, and he has obviously denied all of those claims. So the investigation published by Saturday by Airmail contains interviews with 9 women, the majority of whom are anonymous, and allege that Leto behaved inappropriately with them more than a decade ago. So a young woman had posted on Instagram that Jared Leto had tried to come on to her, made advances towards her when she was still a teenager, I believe. And then multiple other people had also reiterated that claim. A young person, a model named Laura LaRue, claimed that she met Leto at a animal rights benefit in California in 2008, and she was 16 at the time when he was 36, and that he was observing her closely, and he asked for her phone number. And then months later, she visited him at his home and he was flirting with her. And then he came out exposed. Look, let me say something about Jared Leto. Jared Leto has, and this is another thing that has come up in the reporting, is that the claims of him messing with young women, um, being inappropriate, all of that has already been out there for
Hmm.
years now. Like it's become a joke how Jared Leto always goes after underage women, inviting girls on his tour bus, like just being gross and inappropriate. And then like especially when the Suicide Squad thing came out and he was like sending used condoms to the cast of the Suicide Squad, like he's gross. Let's just, and that's like the least of it. Like
No,
he's
no, no,
just
he's not gross. He's
weird,
method. He's method. He's a method actor.
and that's BS.
Yeah.
Like it's just like everyone's always known that. I wasn't aware of the allegations of him messing with young women until kind of more recently. I didn't really know that, but before this story came out. So it's already been kind of in the air. And the fact that someone had mentioned that like they're wondering how Jared Leto didn't get Me Too'd during that era, which is a good point. I don't know why that didn't happen. But, I guess he's an Oscar winner. He's in a successful band. Like he dresses cool, I guess. So people are just like ignoring him. He's been an actor since the 90s. So I guess everyone's just like, okay, whatever. But like the fact that this is just now coming out is wild to me because it had been such a discussed thing for so many years at this point.
Yeah.
And we did go through that whole Me Too Times Up era, and he did not get exposed in the way that other actors had. So I think at this point, it's just like most people, not most people, that's not the right way to say that, but there are a lot of people who are still doing insane things, criminal things. Like if you're messing with underage people who can't consent and you are an adult,
Hmm.
like that's a crime. So I feel like he's obviously going to deny it. It's going to take someone to actually draw up charges in order for that to have like criminal repercussions where like things of that sort can happen. But still, this can actually still affect his career regardless because you only need a bunch of these allegations for your agency to drop you, for your publicist to drop you. Like you don't, it doesn't take a criminal charge for you to for all that stuff to go away. So let's do our due diligence. Like these are allegations, but for me, these are persuasive, like pervasive
Eraser, yeah.
allegations
Yeah.
that hopefully someone takes some action on because
I mean, you would think that with all the stuff involving Diddy and the fact that he is a known industry mogul, he's up there. He's not just like we kind of, a lot of people we kind of think Diddy's just black known, but he's also navigates a lot of predominantly upper echelon white spaces, being, a label owner and being one of the forefront people in hip hop industry, one of the billionaires in the industry. You would think after someone like him getting caught with these allegations and stuff like that, you would think for anybody below those places, whether white or black or any other parameter, be like, oh, maybe I should like stop
Mm.
check a chill because they're clearly
Mm-hmm.
looking at everybody now. But no, this dude was like, nah, fuck it. I'm Jared Leto. Like
Mm-hmm.
nobody thinks of you like that. Like, so yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So crazy. But this right now we're in the era of, I guess Hollywood's, I want to say, enlightenment, I guess. Um because of course, over the past weekend, we've all heard about the protests, but ICE raiding a lot of areas in uh, LA and California, which is can mostly be also conceived of uh, the current president's backlash against Governor Gavin Newsom. Also, the fact that California is like has a GDP equal to most countries. I think it's the fourth or first largest GDP for the country.
Mm.
So the ICE raids going down there, and people protesting. Which is kind of funny. I was watching FD Signifier video on Beyonce, and the quote from Nina
Wasn't
Simone
it
was, it
good?
was really good.
Yeah.
The quote from Nina Simone stuck out with me, saying, it's the artist's duty to reflect the times. And now you have voices like Doechii, up and coming artists,
Mm-hmm.
at the BET Awards this past weekend, even commenting, like, I want you guys to consider what kind of government appears to be in when every time we exercise our democratic right to protest, the military is deployed against us. That's coming from Doechii. And it's ironic, like, everybody always likes to champion the Boston Tea Party and all this other stuff. Like America was founded on the idea of protest,
Mm-hmm.
but now in modern era, like it's all about suppression of protest. Even Phineas, you know, dynamic, production and songwriting, combo with his sister, like him and Billie Eilish are powerhouses. He said himself, people being tear gassed almost immediately at every piece of protest downtown. Like the reaction from ICE, is inciting, this reaction, and I'm loving the fact that, artists in this era are aware what's happening and are speaking their minds and giving voice to power. 'Cause I think like a lot of times, like the old Hollywood guard, and I'm thinking back to, your John Waynes and stuff like that, the cowboy era, like that at that time the Vietnam War was going on. And I don't think, if I remember correctly, you didn't really hear a peep from those guys. But I guess now our generation, dealing with, first Gulf War on terrorism, we're seeing this rapid, militaristic response and all that stuff, for everything. Hasn't helped. It's just made stuff worse. So I'm thankful that, a lot of the younger people in Hollywood, and even some older members are now being more vocal as to like this isn't right. So yeah, I'm loving Hollywood's, because yeah, art inherently is always a response to what's happening in the world around you. Art inherently, as much as we don't say has a bit of political connotation to it. So
Yeah, and I feel like we're in a specific era where it's like okay to talk about your political views, whereas maybe back in the day, there was a lot more at risk for you to do so, even though there were definitely people who did it
hmm
during civil rights. Jane Fonda was hugely influential during the Vietnam War. So like you had like people doing it. It wasn't consistent in the way that it is more now, where it's like, which I really appreciate, like not just like Phineas and Doji, but like the fact that you have actual like people in Hollywood who are actually at this protest.
yeah,
They're talking about it all the time. It's all over their social media. Pedro Pascal is like, saying so many things. Like he's always just like talking about these issues,
hmm
which makes sense to me because it's like these people don't exist in like a bubble somewhere
hmm
in the Hollywood Hills. Like they exist as citizens of this country as well. So like it does make sense that you would talk about the issues that you're literally seeing all around you. Like you are also a part of this, even though you're your privilege and your I guess financial status, it does separate you somewhat from everyone else in a way, but there are still issues that affect at least some of your family members, some of your friends, like the people in your community. And I feel like what's happening in LA right now is totally devastating to me. Like it's just, especially after the fires, like having another thing. I mean, LA is not a they're not new to riots. That is a part of their history, but like the way that the government is like being enacted in towards all of these people and just creating chaos over there. It's just really sad, and it just is like it's just I don't know. The whole thing is just like damn. But I'm really happy that the response to this has been people just being like, "Now we're going out into the streets and we're
Yeah.
gonna like protest against this injustice." And it was like immediate. Like as soon as the ICE people started like wrangling up, going into Home Depot and just like taking people off the streets, there was an immediate response to that. And I think that that just shows that like this is not what people want. We don't want this at all.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm glad that people are talking about it. This is what you should be doing. Just to Nina Simone's point, if you are in an area of influence, this is what you should be doing.
Hmm.
So okay, let's move on to our next story, which is about Justin Baldoni and the Blake Lively situation. So his 400 million defamation lawsuit has been tossed out. So a New York federal judge has sided with the actress in a messy legal battle involving her It Ends With Us director and co-star, whom she accused of alleged sexual harassment and weaponizing social media. Basically, he claimed one that she had defamed him by putting out this lawsuit. And they were like, no, she didn't defame you. She spoke about her experience working on that movie and what you did. And then he had a lawsuit against the New York Times because they had published the article that kind of set this whole thing off. And they were like, no, they were a little dramatic, but from what their reporting suggests, they felt like from what their reporting had suggest, they're saying that no, this is the facts as they understood it. And they did reach out for comment, but his response was like, well, they didn't give me enough time to respond. Okay. So he had alleged stuff against Blake and Justin, how they stole the film from him and they did a different cut and they squeezed him out and all this other stuff. And the judge was just not buying it. So they just tossed the whole thing out. And honestly, yes, like I think Blake Lively is a very problematic person, but I still believe that like if she said that she was sexually harassed on that movie set and knowing how Justin Baldoni is and how he like was forcing this idea down people's throats that he was a feminist and
Hmm.
that he was like he had evolved and he was just like a new type of man who would just like wouldn't do any of these things like okay. To me, that's a red flag,
Hmm.
right? So I guess like, none of us really know. There's still the lawsuit that Blake had against Justin that hasn't, I think that's going to happen next year. So we'll find out the details of that. But from how the facts are right now, I'm just like, yeah, I'm glad they tossed it out because it's like you're upset about things that you allegedly probably did.
Yeah.
So like, nah, you can't. You're not gonna be like, I'm gonna just throw out this lawsuit against Blake and Ryan and Taylor Swift and like all these other people because I'm mad. She said something. It's
Mm.
like, no.
Yeah, this is like it feels like this lawsuit is like suing just to sue.
Yeah.
You said something about me, so I have to count. I have to now sue you now. And I think
Hmm.
that also showcases that the fact that he reacted that way and the judge was like, yeah, no, this is stupid. Kind of sides more with Blake saying, yeah, what you actually did is probably what you did.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
this, and I know sometimes court cases affect other court cases because these are going on parallel. If I'm correct, if I'm going
Yeah.
correct, so I think the outcome of this will be will also be a layer of, I guess, evidence, I guess, in going forward with her lawsuit against him. So based on just judge, case precedent, sorry, yeah, case precedent will affect, that ruling for her. So yeah,
Yeah.
this is just this whole thing is just weird, but
Hmm.
you know it is what it is. Hollywood, baby.
Yeah.
Um, moving on from that, Walton Goggins, who is like at like a peak career, renaissance or reinvention, or after spending a lot of time playing bit roles, is like in the limelight, which is good
Hmm.
for him. He addressed why he kind of unfollowed one of his White Lotus co-stars amidst feud rumors. um he admitted this is when during the finale of season 3 aired, or he kind of gave a reason why without naming names. He said there were alliances that were formed and broke, romances that formed and broke, and friendships that formed and broke. That's from Oscar Isaacs, because they were in they were where were they shooting again?
Oscar Isaac wasn't in this.
No, yeah, Jason Isaacs, not Oscar Isaac. Sorry, sorry.
It's like he was not in that
He
show.
mentioned the fact that they were away from their like families for a long time, because they were shooting in, like, Thailand for like 6 months. Which shooting in Thailand for 6 months, oh, that must be like amazing. Even though you're shooting, that's gotta be fun. Um, he went on to say, well, Goggins went on to say there was no feud. I adore her. Madly, she's important to him. This is Kids Goldie Hawn. This is Meg Ryan. Ryan should do anything she will. You need to watch in the next 20 years before her experience with me. She is love, and I know that I am to her, and we care about each other very deeply. And he kind of didn't say a lot, kind of, and she went on to say, why is everyone obsessed over Instagram? It's irrelevant. We don't give a shit about Instagram, and she just wants to sit. She's just watching people make something out of nothing. I mean, I guess it's something nothing. It's a nothing burger, but I think
Well, the oh, sorry. Go ahead. My
no,
bad.
no, go. You might know more about this more than I do. The whole I still find it odd. Why is it a big deal when people report over following people or unfollowing people on Instagram? I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's literally because it's the only thing that you can actually tangibly see in
yeah,
terms of like, is there drama here?
yeah,
Right? Like you can speculate, but like you don't really know. So the Instagram follow unfollow thing is like the only kind of proof anyone can have about like what's going on in other people's private life, which
yeah,
is again stupid, but that's Hollywood, baby, right? So I've been hearing about this for a long time, this back and forth. I'm like, who even cares? To me, I didn't like the White Lotus, so I have divested from that whole thing anyways, but people care about the show.
hmm,
And this last season was particularly noteworthy because there was a whole bunch of stuff that was going on in the show and then all this extra stuff off the show with these cast members and drama and blah. So they everyone was like they got beef with each other, and then I think someone asked Walter Goggins a question about it and he like walked out of the interview, so it kind of escalated even more. To me it seems like something definitely went down between these two people for sure, like
yeah,
something absolutely went down between these two people. I don't want to speculate. I
yeah.
feel like I know what it is, but like I don't want to speculate.
But
um
yeah, it's
But he basically was just like, when I finish a job, I just stop talking to people. Like I have to get it out of my system. So I haven't, he said when I finished Justify, I didn't talk to Timothy Oliphant for like
yeah,
2 years. So like if that's his process, then who cares? Like, but to me, something definitely went down between them. I think he's just kind of using that as cover in order
yeah,
to not discuss what actually went down. It seems like it's been resolved now, which
hmm,
good. But like the idea that two actors or any actors are going to be like best friends throughout an entire filming situation and during the press is kind of an illusion. Like people don't always get on. Like
yeah,
that's just the situation. That's just life. Like it doesn't matter if you're in Hollywood or in any other industry.
yeah.
So,
And I think it's different with younger Hollywood. When they do movies together, they find like people who wouldn't really be in the same circle. We end up in a movie together. They end up becoming friends. Like you kind of see that now with Haley Steinfeld and uh Michael B. Jordan. Like they have what seems to be like a friendship now. But you also got to understand like the age dynamics at play between Amy Lou and Walter Goggins. So something happened there, and the fact that all this don't protest too much, to
Hmm.
quote Shakespeare, like you're adding fuel to the fire. He could have just said, "Oh yeah, that's just something I do. That's how I disconnect from from my roles." Like you said, I don't talk to me out Oliphant like for 2 years after Justified. That's just me, and keep it like that. Like have your like separate hidden Instagram, which your public doesn't know your alt
Yeah,
account, and follow her with
exactly.
that and keep it moving.
Hmm.
If something happened for real, um, but yeah, this whole unfollow, refollow, nothing happened, and then you call her your Meg Ryan, your Goldie Hawn. That lets me know something went
Yeah.
down. That one person was like, no, we're here for 6 months. This relationship potentially is now over.
Mhm.
Kind of thing. So yeah, just yeah. So moving on. Moving on from that, of course, a big announcement is right now of Warner Brothers and Discovery, or Warner Brothers Discovery, now deciding to split the company into two. Which I think everybody kind of knew the writing on the wall was that. I think everybody for a while kind of figured that the idea to merge them was a bad idea. So of course, Warner Brothers, the television and the motion picture, DC Studios and HBO Max, along with their film libraries, will follow their kind of studio streaming company, and another company will be formed described as their global brand, will focus on entertainment, which doesn't make any sense because movies are entertainment, but whatever. And their sports and their TV brands, which include CNN, of course, Bleacher Report, and Discovery and TNT Sports. Um, yeah, this comes like right after like they decide to rebrand H from the Max back to HBO Max. But the writing was on the wall with this. Like we've been seeing talking about this for the last couple years of every single stumbling block that HBO Max, not HBO Max, but Warner Bros. Discovery has faced since merger. Even as Hollywood was in flux during the pandemic, they always were the ones who could not get shit correct, you know, with streaming and stuff. And it is bolstered by the fact that, when they first merged, I think yes, entering the streaming era, Discovery was at a $55 million debt, but they were always going to recover based on the strength of their entertainment library and properties. But since David Zaz got involved, Discovery, he's from Discovery. He's used to working on a smaller budget and being in the green. So their solution to that was to sell off massive parts of their um Warner Brother library, which includes like Turner, all the old Turner films, and put it on other streaming platforms. So what's the point of making a streaming platform if you're going to sell your properties or other things that makes no sense? All this and aiding by the fact that Zav kept getting compensation packages every year while Warner Brothers were taking his L's, almost a $52 million for like the last 4 or 5 years. So it doesn't make any sense. You can't say you're about saving money, but then you're making almost up to now $200 million while your company's taking L's like the last 4 years. It doesn't make sense. And Matthew Bologna of Puck Brent on a scathing article basically saying like, instead of trying to target the people he should target, he spent more time trying to give appearances of, what a great leader, talking to, J.J. Abrams, Star Wars, The Rock, which that was a whole other debacle. Like the people he keeps trying to talk to, or he seems more, Dave Zaz seems more into the illusion of being a high ranking CEO than actually operating as one. And that is clear given this split of your studio and your other entertainment platforms. Hopefully this saves him, but given his track record as CEO and not understanding how to run Warner Brothers the way it should be run, like I said, coming from Discovery, which was mostly smaller budget, didn't have to focus on this many avenues for entertainment. It clearly shows that he still has not uh, understood what is expected of him, especially with a brand that kind of holds almost 40% of global entertainment content. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's time for David Zaslav to exit stage left.
Yeah.
Like, let's get that together.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about what we've been watching this week.
It looks like we both had a little Sinners rewatch. You
Oh.
know, I love that movie. Oh, I can't describe how I feel every time I watch that movie. It's amazing. It's beautiful. You know. And now, especially now, being able to watch it in the comfort of my home, then you're able to rewind and look at stops. And I think for me, like watching it in theaters, a lot of the dialogue kind of was hard to get here in some cases. But being able to watch it at home, you could actually like. I know I had an issue with the explanation of the Sammy's abilities and how that helps magic and stuff like that. But watching it at home and actually getting to hear the dialogue better and also the help of subtitles, I that was more explained to me better. I understood it better than when I first got in the theaters. Like, and that's the beautiful thing about watching these movies at home. Sometimes you're able to pick up on stuff you missed, in theater a lot easier. But yeah, I love this movie.
Hmm. Yeah, I was watching it through like other people watching it because I guess it's on VOD or something right
Yeah,
now. Um, and I actually like it a lot more
yeah,
through these rewatches, which is good. I feel better about myself now than I did when I first watched it because I was very conflicted about it. But having like these other rewatches, it has actually helped me appreciate the movie a lot more, which is another thing that I'm realizing is that sometimes it's kind of hard to give a review of something after just one watch. I think some things, I mean, listen, everyone loved this movie from the first time. Like a lot of people didn't even need the rewatch for
yeah.
them to love this movie. Um, for the small minority of us, I know I'm not alone, so I know there's other people out there um who just like needed to just see it again and like really understand like what was going on. Um, it definitely helped. And I think that sometime is what you need. Like sometimes you just need a couple of watches in order to have like a real opinion on it.
Mm,
Um, so yeah. And I really enjoyed it. And I understood like people's motivations more. I actually appreciated the pacing more. And like the introduction of the supernatural stuff into the story. I appreciate that a lot more. So yes. Do I still think that the sexual dialogue is cringy? Hmm. But overall, like I think it's an outstanding movie.
yeah.
And I'm actually really proud that like even to this day people are still talking about how amazing it is and like that is that makes me just like smile every time someone is just like that movie was incredible. It just makes me really happy. So like yeah, that was
Yeah.
fun.
I love the fact that they kind of gave Haley Steinfeld the most kind of out there out there lines, which is what was it? What was the one
The
she
most
said?
something about
Um
pussy. I was like,
she's what
girl.
what was it she said? Oh, you put your tongue on me and you
Yeah.
fucked my coos. And I was like, hey yo.
Like, what?
Oh,
What are
that's
you saying? Shut up. You
uh
are Gwen Stacy.
but
Oh,
it,
actually, not.
but hey,
Not really.
but not really. But yeah. So that somebody said, yeah, damn, Shamar Moore must be mad because Shamik Moore must be mad because she ain't never gonna talk to him like that, which is crazy.
Have we
Uh,
talked about that? It's
which
okay.
is
It's late.
crazy. It's
But
late, but yeah,
Shamik Moore,
yeah, my boy,
I'm sorry, adding you heavy,
my boy.
son. Because there's
I
something wrong
mean,
with you, dog.
yeah. I mean, along with both of us doing that, I finished the pit. Oh
Okay,
man.
good.
Oh. That's like watch. This is like how I felt at the end of like every time the season of The Bear ends, like wanting more.
Mm.
Like the pit like hit every single, not just like cinematic or character arc note, but I love like this is from me getting the show like talking like other like doctors and they're like, oh, this is like the two shows people always say are accurate about working in hospitals, always Scrubs and this show. And you wouldn't think so because like Scrubs is kind of a comedy, but like no, the dynamics that happen, and the fact that Scrubs not just involves like doctors like every other doctor drama does. It has the nurses, has surgical staff, has admin people, has all of them interacting and interplaying. The Pit does the same thing, but it also hits on the issues a lot of these doctors have. Like the finale kind of ends with like these parents who are anti-vax saying, "Our son is sick, help our son." It's like, "Oh, we need to do this procedure." It's like, "Oh no, that'll give my son autism. I don't want it." And he's like, "Why the fuck are you here?" You're here for a procedure to save your son, but you don't want to listen to your doctor. And every single like I've like medical professionals in my family, they've all diatribed in the fact like people come to hospitals for help, but then they don't want the help because they do one Google and that's it. Like this show hits all the notes that everybody I think in the medical community has like concerns for what's going on currently with people seeking care. So yeah, love it.
Yeah. And I started watching Ginny and Georgia season 3. I think that's what we're on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still a mess. It's still cringy, and I love it. This for me is my reality TV. Like, it's garbage, and I'm here for it.
Like I've seen a clip of Ginny and George, and I think it was like they had like 2 like light skinned characters, and like one was like, "Oh, you're not that black," and it was like, "Oh, you're not that Spanish," and they were like hitting like the most trite like I guess parody points of blackness or being Spanish, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Somebody paid for this, and somebody also wrote this, not thinking this was cringy and bad. Like
it's like the soap operas your parents watch, but just for younger people. That's just what it is.
That doesn't sound good at all.
Yeah. It's not.
Well, you're watching it. Why?
I'm watching it through people. I'm not actually like watching it. So they can kind of edit out the most annoying bits, even though the most annoying bits are kind of the reason why you're watching the show. So like,
how does Rotting That Bad get 3 seasons?
I don't know. There's a market for it. People just like it. Why does Tyler Perry keep making movies? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
People are still watching. So what can we say? All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. We hope that you're all taking care of yourselves and doing well. Make sure to check all of our social media. Support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
Au revoir.